Howdy again everyone, and today I have the pleasure of doing another one of my favourite things, testing out a new lens which is specially designed to give extremely smooth bokeh. These are pretty special and don't come along very often. It's the Canon RF 85mm f1.2 L USM DS. It costs a huge $3,000 or about £3,000 in the UK. In absolute terms, that's obviously a crazy price, but for a professional portrait photographer, this could possibly be the lens they've been dreaming of for years. It will only work on Canon's new mirrorless EOS R cameras, and of course, don't mix this up with the slightly less expensive non-DS version of the lens, which I reviewed a little while ago. For many people, 85mm is their perfect focal length for portrait and subject photography, getting you good, somewhat tight emphasis on your subject, while not totally compressing your background away into an oblivion like a longer telephoto lens might do. And of course, an extremely bright maximum aperture of f1.2 can offer you enormous background separation and bokeh potential, throwing your backgrounds way out of focus even with subjects that are further away from you. Canon's EOS R cameras have eye autofocusing too, to help you get those portrait pictures perfectly sharp. And this lens's two specially coated internal elements makes those backgrounds look extra soft and fluffy. I'll look into that a bit more a bit later in the review. Normally, an aperture of f1.2 lets in a huge amount of light to your camera, getting you faster shutter speeds. However, the special coatings within this DS version of the lens has a darkening effect for your aperture, slowing down your shutter speeds. So in terms of brightness, the lens is the equivalent of about f2 or so. Not amazingly impressive, however, you do still get the deeply out of focus backgrounds of an f1.2 lens. Let's look at its build quality now. It's virtually the same as its non-DS brother. Its weight of 1.2 kilograms and girth of over 10 centimeters have led some people to see it as a rather gigantic monster of a lens, which it is. Gazing into that huge front glass element for long enough will make you feel like you're watching the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey while simultaneously dropping acid. The lens's body is based on a metal mount with weather sealing, and Canon claim that other parts of the lens are quite well weather sealed too. However, the rest of the lens's body is made of plastic, presumably to keep the weight down, which is already a hefty 1.2 kilograms, or over 2.5 pounds. It does feel quite nice in the hand to hold, although the plastic body is slightly prone to cosmetic scuffing. The lens's focus ring is rubberized, turns smoothly, and, as usual nowadays, is electronically coupled to the focus motor. It works nice and responsively. The lens does exhibit some focus breathing, with your image zooming in a little as you focus closer to your subject, as you can see here. The autofocus motor works reasonably quickly and accurately, as you can see here. Lenses with apodization filters or special graduated ND coatings, like this one, tend to have a slower autofocus performance for technical reasons, but I was pleased to see that there weren't any problems here at all really. It does make a little noise as it focuses though, as you can hear here. It's not very loud in normal use, although that noise will make it to your camera's built-in microphone while recording video. The lens also features one of Canon's customizable control rings at the front, which can be set to control almost any number of functions. It comes with gentle clicks to it, although Canon do offer a service to remove those clicks and make it turn smoothly for a price. The lens's filter thread size is 82mm wide. It does not feature image stabilization, but it does come with a nice deep lens hood. Overall, the lens gets high marks for build quality, although at such a high price, it's inevitable that some would have preferred a metal construction rather than plastic. Anyway, image quality. I'll be testing this lens on a 30MP Canon EOS R, the highest resolution EOS R camera available at the time of making this review. Well, actually, I currently have a 45MP EOS R5 on order, but I only had this lens and the non-DS version for testing for a few days and it didn't arrive in time, sorry. In the middle of the image, straight from f1.2, just like on the non-DS version, we see spectacular image quality with plenty of sharpness, contrast, and no purple fringing. And over in the corners, More of the same here really, it's simply brilliant image quality even at this extremely bright aperture. If you want even more, then stop down to f2 for a tiny little improvement, with corner sharpness becoming absolutely perfect now. Already the lens is outperforming the 30 megapixel sensor. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, although f16 will look a little softer due to the effect of diffraction. Well, now you get an idea of why this lens is so expensive. It's not hard for manufacturers to build an 85mm f1.2 lens, but it is incredibly difficult to make one that's sharp from corner to corner even at that bright maximum aperture, but Canon have done it. Well, let's move on and look at distortion and vignetting. Your camera will usually correct these for you, although you can turn corrections off to get a glimpse of how the lens really performs. We see an absolutely negligible amount of pincushion distortion here at f1.2. Vignetting is pretty heavy though, those corners look pretty dark. In my testing, I found that this DS version of the lens had a lot more vignetting than a non-DS version when the aperture is topped down. Here's f2.8 and even f5.6 where vignetting is still evident, so you will definitely want to use your camera's peripheral illumination option with this lens because its vignetting is a real weakness. Now let's see about close-up image quality. The lens configures down to 85cm, just average for an 85mm optic. The great news is that even at close distances and even at f1.2, your image quality remains excellent. Let's see now how the lens works against bright lights. Like its non-DS version brother, it does struggle a bit here. We witness some flaring and a loss of contrast, so use the lens's hood when you can. Now then, bokeh. This is supposed to be the crowning glory of this particular lens. I am pleased to say that this lens features some of the smoothest looking bokeh I have ever seen. Even compared to lenses with apodization filters, it is absolutely dreamy. I'll do a proper comparison video sometime soon, looking at the differences between this lens and the non-DS version, but I can tell you now that the DS version's highlights look infinitely smoother, and even things like cat's eye shapes to bokeh balls in the corners are greatly reduced. If you're looking for a lens with gorgeous backgrounds, then this is surely the king. I should note for you here that the defocus smoothing effect does diminish as you stop the lens's aperture down to about f5.6 or so. And related to bokeh is longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.2, bokeh highlights see a little colour fringing, but not too much, pink before the plane of focus and green after. Stop down to f2 to see it essentially gone, so that's a better than average performance here. Overall then, well, it makes sense to me that Canon would release both the DS and a non-DS version of this lens. The original version without the defocus smoothing elements is certainly a great lens, which lets in tons of light and gets sharp pictures. This DS version of the lens offers you slower shutter speeds and more vignetting, not to mention a higher price. But if ever either of these two lenses somehow became affordable to me, then I'd sure get the DS version, because those backgrounds are just addictively beautiful to me, and of course the lens's sharpness is absolutely astonishing too. If you can handle its price, then the lens comes highly recommended.